What's going on, everybody? This is Captain Obvious, and welcome back to another Minecraft video. Today I want to talk about who exactly Steve is. What is he? Is he human? Is he not human? There are some theories out there, and I'm going to go over 10 of them today. Now, this is not going to solve the mystery. This is probably just going to open up a conversation. So in the comments, let me know what you think. Let me know if you have a different theory than anything I present. Let me know if you'd like to hear more theories. Drop a like if you guys like this video. Okay, so the first theory that we have is that Steve is in a coma and he's sleeping. I don't really like this theory at all, but basically it says that the creative version of Minecraft is the lucid dream. You know, Steve can control things, everything's okay, nothing hurts him. It's a happy dream. But the survival mode, that is the nightmare. And all the music that he hears and sounds and things like that, those are just sounds from the outside world, and that's how his brain is processing them. So everything in Minecraft is just coming straight from Steve's brain. So he's sleeping. I don't like that. That's too convenient. A lot of things have done this in the past. Movies, books, TV shows, to just kind of explain everything. It's one of those like safe explanations. So not my favorite. Now, this next theory is very odd. So it says basically that Steve is a demigod sent to the planet by his parents because he was under attack from a demon of darkness. So this demon created all of the bad mobs in the world, and he basically created them to hunt and kill Steve. Not really a fan of this theory because where is this demon? It's not the Ender Dragon. That's not a demon. That's just that's like a big enemy that's created by this demon. It's not the Wither because you have to create him to fight him. So this demon supposedly would have created everything and then made himself only available to attack you or fight if you somehow manage to figure out how to create them. I don't know. It's a weird theory. I don't really like this theory, but it is a fan theory nonetheless. All right, so number 3 is kind of a really weird, convoluted one that pretty much everybody has heard of in some way or another, is that Steve is losing his mind or that he is Herobrine, but those two are kind of interconnected, which is why I didn't put it as two separate ones, because the version that I like the best of all the Herobrine tales, because if you guys want me to do a Herobrine thing, I could do that as well if you guys like this video, but basically the one that I like the best is that the Steve that we see, that we get to control, is a past version of Herobrine. That Herobrine he's actually the Steve that we play, but a future version of him, and he's just gone crazy. He's all alone in the world of his kind, because villagers are different, and he has basically just gone crazy, and now he is just like a serial killer. He'll just like wander around looking for the player, and our Steve is just the past version of himself, and that is his destiny if we don't, build this world where he can live and thrive. Since there's no actual Herobrine in the game, it's one of those theories that it sounds kind of cool, but if Herobrine existed, that would make it, more believable. Since Herobrine doesn't, if you can't believe the first part of it, then the rest of the theory kind of falls apart. So it's one of those popular ones. It's one of those fun ones to think about. But since there's no actual Herobrine in the game, yeah, you really can't go by that one. All right, so number 4 is actually one I just heard while I was doing some research for this, is that Steve is like a pet in a cage. So the Minecraft world, as big as it is actually just a giant cage. So basically the Steve character is like a hamster. You know how like if your kid's hamster dies right away, they haven't had a chance to play, they'll be devastated. So a parent would go to a store and get a new hamster that looks identical to the old hamster. That's kind of what it's like, is that Steve is just a pet, which is why the mobs just randomly appear, because the person, whoever is holding on to Steve as the pet, just keeps dropping new things for the pet to play with. Interesting theory, very godly-like theory, where there's like this greater being who is kind of manipulating the world. One of the better theories, I think, in terms of believability, because what it does is it's a safe way to explain a lot of the randomness that happens in the game without having to dig too much into it. It's like when people believe in God and, there's Do you see physical proof? No, but you have belief, right? You have belief that these things happen. So it's a very kind of safe way without being really safe, without the other theory that I had said was safe earlier on, because it's kind of like out there, but in kind of a safe bubble, if that makes sense. Now, the next theory is that Steve and Alex are interdimensional time travelers. Steve was there first, so he's a little more hardened to how the world is, and which is why there are also zombies who kind of look like Steve, and there's none that look like Alex. It's because he was there first, and what happens is every time he dies, the Steve that walks through the portal comes through. So it's basically a copied version of Steve. So there can only be one Steve in the world at a time. And when he had first come through that portal, which, by the way, is the final portal. So out of these group of time travelers, the last world they can hit is this Minecraftia world. And that is like their final destination where they can live in peace and create a utopia for themselves. But if they die, there's just a copied version of themselves. The only thing I don't like is that the spawned Steve would not retain any of the memories of the old Steve, whereas we as the player know where everything is. So like if we get killed, we'll know the coordinates or at least the area where we died. So when we respawn, even though we have nothing, we have a limited experience compared to what we had, we'll know the direction to go. So that is really one of the only flaws with that. And then, so basically, when a Steve dies, he is reborn as a zombie. And the skeletons are just really weathered zombies that have lost all their flesh, and somehow they've turned into knowing how to shoot bows now. Maybe because they've walked the land for so long. And so basically, Alex is she came later on, so she's not as hardened, or maybe hasn't even died yet. But Steve has obviously been there for a while, and when we take control of Steve, he's already been there for a while, which is, again, why the zombies are there. Interesting theory. For me, the one major plot hole is when he dies and he knows everything. But there's also a lot of other stuff that I think doesn't fit that theory, so not my favorite. Okay, so another one is that there was an apocalypse, and Steve is the only one of his kind that made it, and the villagers are kind of like de-evolved versions of him, which is why they can't speak. They can only make that like meh sound. Now, the apocalypse version does kind of have some basis to it because of, again, the undead mobs. So it could be all the people that had been killed and things like that. But it doesn't do enough to really explain like the end dragon and, the wither and things like that. I like theories that tie everything together. So this one is kind of okay. That's the short version. The short version is that everyone died and the villagers, like I said, they're just de-evolved humans. There's another one. So this is another theory. It's a longer kind of apocalypse theory, whereas this one I like better because this one has the Ender Dragon and his minions. I'm assuming the Endermen attack the overworld. Now, they failed. Okay, they were sent back to the end, but they had brought with them a plague that eventually killed all of the other humans, except for Steve. So again, that would explain why the Ender Dragon's there. That would explain why there are zombies and skeletons and things like that from all the other bodies. It doesn't really explain the villagers, unless, again, we could just go with the fact that they're a subset species of human, or just a completely different species altogether that kind of evolved after this. That begs the question, so is Steve much older then? Is he like... Maybe the demigod theory can kind of be pushed in with this. Is he like immortal, since he can just keep coming back from the dead? Because think about it, it takes a long time for species to evolve. So if the Ender Dragon attacked, killed all of the other humanoid or human-like people, and then these villagers had time to kind of de-evolve or evolve from something else into what they are now, and Steve is still around, and he still looks pretty young. I estimate Steve's age to be somewhere between like 28 and 34. That's what I've always imagined. I've never read a theory on how old he is, but to me, or 20, let's say 26 to 34, which is like the prime of a human's life, or at least a man's life in terms of their strength and speed, because he can run pretty fast and things like that. So you'd have to kind of combine other theories to make this one fit, because I just don't think it does enough to. What is the Wither then? Was the Wither just always there? Was it always this just ancient being that you can kind of summon at any point to challenge. That's a possibility, I guess. This one holds a little more weight in terms of explanation because, again, it does bring the end dragon into it. So I do like that one a little bit more. Okay, now there's another theory. It's the dying sun theory, because a lot of people have shown how the sun and the moon, it just doesn't fit in with like the world, like how it rotates and things like that. So there's a dying sun theory where our sun basically was dying. And so humans on Earth decided to turn the Earth into a sun. Basically, the theory says that it took over 1 million years. So the world that we see right now is basically the moon. What we are playing on is our old moon. And humans, over the course of a very long time, found a way to take the resources from Earth, transport it to the moon, and turned our old Earth into a sun. Either some kind of geothermal technology or something. Maybe they ignited the Earth's air, the atmosphere, and turned it into a sun. And we all live on Earth now, but not everybody survived. So only Steve is left on this, this human-created new Earth, Earth 2. The sun that we see in the sky is actually old Earth, and the moon that we see in the sky is actually the old sun. Very, very wild out there theory, because if we are so far into the future, why is everything so generic and basic? Because if we would have taken our luxuries with us to the moon, we would have taken all the technology. So it does explain why there are layers of the world, right? Like it explains, and it kind of could explain why the bedrock has this very moonish type quality with this like dark rock, although the moon is not that color exactly. It's more obviously white and light, but there's just too many holes for me. The technology would be there. The lack of technology bothers me. So very interesting. Whoever came up with it, very, very wild imagination. But yeah, in the words of Simon Cowell, it's a no from me. Okay, so another theory is that creepers are actually good guys and Steve is a bad guy. So in this theory, creepers are a form of intelligent plant life and basically attack Steve to stop him from destroying the planet and creating this devastation that he creates, by punching down trees and killing animals and things like that. Very, very interesting theory, again, but some plot holes, some holes in it. Whereas if you just spawn and you stand still, you're still going to get killed, right? At night, things will spawn around you. You could possibly still get killed by a creeper. So the zombies and the skeletons, those are all just, creatures that inhabit that world or that planet. Creepers are basically called upon by the plant life and fauna there to kill anything that is detrimental to the health of the planet. Yeah, really weird theory. I don't know. I'm not a fan of this theory because there's just so many ways you can attack it. For me, the biggest one, like I said, is you stand still, you can still get killed by creepers. So if you were standing still and a creeper came by and didn't blow you up, okay, that's an interesting theory that could potentially work, but yeah, not a fan. Also, Steve does a lot. We can replant forests and he can build things up, and so it all depends on the player playing. You could totally destroy everything, but most of the time our jobs is to build it up, make it look beautiful. So I don't know. I don't really like this theory too much, but it's a theory. Another crazy theory out there is that Steve is an android because he can carry 2,304 cubic meters of material and he can punch solid blocks. Plus, he can eat an entire chicken in only 7 bites if you listen to the noises that he makes when he eats. So, interesting theory about being an android, but I don't really find there's enough proof. Again, maybe that demigod thing is where he just has unlimited strength. That could be, how he carries all of that weight. It could just also be that everything on that world works differently. It's not the same physics that we're used to, which explains why things float in the air. There's not gravity on everything. Interesting theory about him being an android, but I don't see enough of it. I don't really like this theory too much because it just explains one thing, which is just him being able to carry so much, or a few things, but there's so many other things that are just left up in the air. All right, and the final theory I have is that Steve is the only human among the Neanderthals. Basically, Steve would be like the first person that is evolved after all the Neanderthals, which would be the villagers. But the theory gets really, really weird. So essentially, what this theory says is that Steve takes the Ender Dragon egg, flees underground, I guess in a cave base, and then mixes his DNA with the Dragonade egg to create humans, but the humans are infected with this zombie virus, and zombies are sprung from this. And every time he dies, he basically regenerates or is reborn from this like egg DNA. It's like cloned. It's really weird. It's like a really, really out there theory. There's so many things that go into it, and I don't know. I don't know if I like it. I do like the fact that it's set in like an older time, around the Neanderthals and stuff like that, which is why you find ancient structures, same as what we do with like, ancient Egyptians and things like that. But you're not finding technology, although there is redstone, which it contradicts it too much, because it's set in the old times, and it doesn't really do enough for me to explain the origin of certain things like zombies and skeletons and things like that. And the end dragon egg is just very odd. I don't know, very odd. So out of all of these theories, which one do you like, or what do you have to add on top of this? What crazy theory do you have? Obviously, it's a video game, and it's just a created character, but it's fun to kind of dig into a world that we love and give a backstory to it and come up with just a crazy explanation of why things are the way they are. So I'd love to hear what you guys came up with. All right, that's going to do it for me. Until next time, Captain Obvious out. Peace.